Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into something that's at the very core of intelligence, whether you're talking about us humans or the latest AI. It's this constant pull between a real, game changing breakthrough and a beautiful, tempting, but totally false illusion.
Right, so it all boils down to this conflict. You've got the epiphany on one side, that genuine aha moment that really pushes us forward. And on the other, the illusion, a pattern that looks so real, feels so right, but just leads you down the wrong path. Our brains are walking this tightrope, like all the time. And this whole pattern spotting thing, it's literally hardwired into our DNA. It's how our ancestors survived, right? Spotting the pattern in the rustling grass that meant a tiger, not just the wind. Well, that exact same skill is now the engine driving artificial intelligence. But, and this is a big but, it comes with a serious risk that we've got to understand in ourselves first.
All right, so here's the game plan. We're going to start with our own brains and this weird little trap we all fall into called apophenia. Then we'll pivot and see how AI is becoming this incredible epiphany engine. After that, we'll look at how that's shaking up the legal world, and we'll cap it all off with a fascinating modern-day quest to use AI to find something brand new.
Okay, so let's dig into the problem first. It's this very, very human tendency to see connections where there just aren't any. It's the moment our greatest evolutionary superpower kind of becomes a cognitive glitch. The official name for this is apophenia. It's our brain's default setting, really, to look at a bunch of random stuff, whether it's clouds in the sky or numbers on a stock chart, and find a pattern that feels incredibly meaningful, even when it's not. And you've totally done this. We all have. You know, you see a face in a cloud or that famous face on Mars. Usually it's just a bit of fun, but sometimes people take it way, way more seriously, and it can get pretty expensive. And this is just a perfect example of how compelling these illusions can be. I mean, get this. Back in 2004, an online casino forked over $28,000 for a 10-year-old grilled cheese sandwich. Why? Because someone thought they saw the Virgin Mary on it. You can't make this stuff up. That's how persuasive apophenia can be. So where does this word even come from? Well, it was coined back in 1958 by a psychiatrist named Klaus Conrad. And, the author of the article we're drawing from today adds this funny, kind of awkward side note that he was really reluctant to cite Conrad because, well, the guy was a Nazi. Yikes. But his definition really stuck. It's not just seeing the pattern, it's that powerful feeling of abnormal meaningfulness that comes with it. And this goes way beyond burnt toast. Apophenia is the engine behind so much. Superstitions, the gambler's fallacy that convinces you you're due for a win. It's the foundation for some of the wildest conspiracy theories out there. Lizard people and all that. And in its most severe forms, it's actually linked to serious psychiatric issues. If we want to get technical for a second, apophenia is what you'd call a false positive. You think you see a tiger in the bushes, but it's just the wind. The opposite mistake, a false negative, is way more dangerous, thinking it's just the wind when it's actually a tiger. What's so wild is that in fields like legal e-discovery, AIs are already way better than we are at avoiding both of these mistakes. Okay, so let's build on that, because this is where the whole story pivots. AI isn't just another thing that can fall for these biases. It's actually becoming our best tool to fight against them. It's becoming a real, honest-to-goodness epiphany engine. See, unlike our brains that love to jump to conclusions, we can program AI to be incredibly meticulous. We can force it to back up its pattern finding with actual evidence and statistics. It becomes this amazing counterbalance to our own biases, filtering out all the noise to find the real signal. And we are already seeing the results. We're talking about real epiphanies, not illusions. You've got AlphaFold figuring out protein structures, something that's changing medicine. In silico medicine getting an AI-discovered drug into phase 2 FDA trials. Google's genome finding millions of new, stable materials that we never knew existed. These are massive, verifiable breakthroughs. And it's not just for the science labs. AI is giving us new eyes for the humanities, too. It's finding subtle political messages in ancient Roman texts that historians had missed for centuries. It's even analyzing music and finding hidden patterns and bass lines that change how we think about composition. It's just incredible. And that brings us right to the steps of the courthouse. The legal world is all about finding patterns in precedent. And now these powerful generative AI models are starting to spot things in mountains of case law that have been invisible to human experts for years.
This is already happening. Look at these recent studies. You've got GPT-4 digging through court records in the Czech Republic and spotting a specific theft from Jim M.O. that the humans missed. You have Claude 3 analyzing UK judgments and creating a whole new way of categorizing them. It's like having a superpowered legal assistant that can read everything instantly and find the golden threads.
And look, this is where it gets really real, especially for any lawyers watching. In a 2024 case, a sitting U.S. Court of Appeals judge, Judge Kevin Newsom, actually wrote in his opinion that he used ChatGPT to help understand the term landscaping in an insurance policy. He said it no longer seems ridiculous to consult an LLM for things like this. I mean, that's a watershed moment. So all of this inspired the author of our source material to go on his own, what he calls modern quixotic quest. You know, a grand, maybe slightly crazy adventure to see if he could use AI to find a totally new and genuine epiphany. So his mission was simple but huge. He gave ChatGPT 4o a challenge. Don't just analyze data inside one box. I want you to look across different fields of knowledge and find a new, useful connection that no one has ever seen before. He was basically asking, can AI be truly creative? Now, he didn't just type in a simple question. No, this was a whole process. Days of careful prompt engineering, then letting the AI run. But the crucial part was what came next. More than 14 hours of his own time, plus a ton of machine time, fact-checking, cross-validating with other AIs, and trying to poke holes in the results to make sure he wasn't just falling for his own beautiful illusion. So, after all that, what did he find? Did this epic modern quest actually produce a real epiphany, or did man and machine just create a gorgeous, compelling illusion? We are going to find out in part 2. Thanks for joining me on The Explainer.
Imagine you ask an AI to sift through all of human knowledge and find brand new, undiscovered connections. What do you think it would find? Genuine breakthroughs or just some really convincing nonsense? Well, that's exactly what legal technologist Ralph Losey did, and in this explainer we're going to dig into the incredible results of his experiment.
Okay, so let's get right into it. At the absolute heart of Losey's experiment is this one single electrifying question. He prompted ChatGPT 4o to find new patterns, and it came back with 5 really audacious claims. So our mission here is to follow his investigation and figure out, are these real world-changing revelations, or is this just the AI seeing faces in the clouds?
So here's our game plan. First, we're going to lay out the 5 patterns the AI discovered, then we'll zoom in on its legal insights, look at the connections it found in culture, and finally, we'll reach the verdict. Were these genuine epiphanies or just very, very clever illusions?
All right, let's get to the main event. Losey prompted the AI to look for new, practical connections across totally different fields of knowledge. Let's see what it came up with.
So here they are, 5 patterns that connect law, ethics, art, and technology. I mean, some of these sound super specific, others a little more out there, but what's really crucial here is that to an expert like Ralph Losey, none of these were familiar. They felt totally new, but they also had, as he put it, a ring of truth. The real challenge, though, was to check them out without falling for apophonia, you know, our human tendency to see patterns where they don't actually exist.
We're going to start with the 2 patterns that are all about the law, which is Ralph Losey's own backyard. And what's so wild is that even for him, a guy who's been in this field for decades, these ideas were completely new. The first pattern is all about language. The AI suggested that if you analyze thousands and thousands of court opinions, you'll find a clear link. It said that judges who use stories, metaphors, or allegories, narrative language, tend to deliver more empathetic rulings, especially in really sensitive cases dealing with individual rights, employment, or family law. Now, it's not saying one causes the other. It's a correlation, a peek into a judge's underlying philosophy. And this just nails the point home. This is not some dry, formal legalese. This is Justice Blackmun's incredibly passionate dissent in a famous, tragic case. He starts off by calling out the court for pretending to be a dispassionate oracle. But then, he tells a story. He begins with poor Joshua. This is exactly the kind of empathetic, narrative-driven language that the AI was talking about. It's a perfect example.
But, one AI's opinion isn't enough, right? So Losey did something really smart. He used a different AI, Gemini Pro 2.5, to get a second opinion. And Gemini's verdict? It called this claim sturdy and highly testable. And it makes sense, right? Court opinions are all public record, and we have the language processing tools to analyze them on a massive scale. It's basically a way to put a number on a gut feeling lawyers have had for years.
Okay, let's move on to the next one, because this is the big one. This is the pattern that all the AIs and Losey himself agreed was the most significant breakthrough. The name is topological jurisprudence. Now, it sounds complicated, but the core idea is pretty brilliant. It's about using a type of math called topology, which is all about the properties of shapes, to visualize and analyze really messy legal problems. Think about things like who's liable for what on a social media platform, or sorting out transactions on a blockchain.
And you can see here, this is a total game changer. On the left, you've got the old way of thinking about legal liability. It's rigid, it's like a family tree. It assumes a single straight line from cause to effect, but that just doesn't work for modern problems with tons of different actors and data flying everywhere. But the topological model on the right, it's completely different. It's a flexible, dynamic network map. It shows all these different paths of influence, and it can change as new info comes in. It's built for the crazy complexity of our world today.
And that is exactly why everyone agreed this was number one. Gemini Pro 2.5 just hit the nail on the head. This isn't just an observation. It's a proposal for a whole new tool. It's a new way to analyze information, not just a conclusion. Its power is in making these incredibly tangled problems clear, which is why Gemini called it the most robust and defensible claim of the five.
So, the big question, right? Was this idea actually new? This was the final test. The research did find a 2022 article by Professor Dana Burchart on legal topology, but, and this is the kicker, her work was on international law and legal spaces. It was a totally different context, and that confirmed it. The AI's idea of using it to map liability was genuinely new, a true epiphany.
Okay, let's shift gears now. We're moving from the courtroom to the wider world of culture and technology. These next three patterns are less about legal theory and more about the subtle dance between society and innovation. This one is called quantum ethics drift, and it points out this really interesting delay. What the AI found is that when there's a big spike in funding for quantum computing, it's followed, like clockwork, about 6 to 24 months later by a huge jump in conversations about the ethical risks, like privacy. It basically suggests that our ethics are always playing catch-up. The serious talk doesn't really start until the money is on the table and the tech feels real. It's a predictable but kind of slow societal reaction.
All right, now for what has to be the most creative, most out there claim of the bunch, the aesthetic trust feedback loop. The idea here is that digital art acts like a kind of cultural mood ring for how we feel about technology. So when people are really skeptical of tech companies and their black box algorithms, art styles that show transparency, things like wireframes or exploded view diagrams, they get more popular. It's a fascinating idea that art tries to make things clear right when we feel like everything is hidden.
So, was this idea brilliant or just weird? Well, when it went up for review, both ChatGPT and Gemini ranked it as the weakest claim of all five. And the reason is pretty simple. It's almost impossible to test or prove. It's really susceptible to that apophenia thing we mentioned, seeing patterns that aren't really there. As the article hilariously put it, it's like people seeing a religious figure on a piece of grilled cheese. It's a cool idea for sure, but it's hard to know if it's a real insight or just a coincidence.
And finally, we get to a pattern that, well, it might hit a little close to home. Generative AI and civic discourse decay. The AI basically pointed the finger at itself and its cousins, saying it could be ruining public conversation. The proof? It cited a study of Reddit moderators who are just drowning in AI content they call poorly written, inaccurate, and off-topic. It's like junk mail bearing real conversations. But, and this is a big but, the AI also found the counterpoint. If you prompt it well, it can actually raise the quality of a discussion. It shows the decay isn't a sure thing. It all comes down to how we decide to use the tech.
So, after digging through all of this, after all the analysis and second-guessing, where do we land? We started by asking if these 5 patterns were genuine epiphanies or just really convincing illusions. It's time to get our answer.
And the verdict is, well, this is the best part of the story. It's a happy ending. The experiment was a huge success. After all the rigorous checking by both humans and other AIs, all 5 claims were found to be pretty much valid and genuinely insightful. Even the weakest one, that aesthetic trust loop, was seen as a valuable creative idea. And the strongest, topological jurisprudence, was a true breakthrough. They all held up.
And this success just blows the doors open to all these fascinating questions about what's next. I mean, will we see lawyers pulling up topological maps in a courtroom to argue about liability? Are we going to see legal teams analyzing a judge's linguistic style before a big trial? This stuff isn't science fiction anymore. These are real possibilities that this experiment put on the table.
In the end, this is the most important lesson from the whole thing. Ralph Losey's final thought is really a call for balance. AI is this unbelievably powerful tool for discovery, yeah. It can show us connections we'd never find on our own. But it's not magic. It needs us. It needs our critical thinking and our skepticism to tell the difference between a real discovery and a tempting illusion.
And you know, that journey isn't just for experts anymore. The most exciting part of all this is that anyone can be a part of it. So we'll end with this challenge from the author. Join the quest. Play with these tools, ask big questions, challenge what we think we know. Because if you work carefully and critically with these new partners in thought, the next incredible epiphany, it might just be yours.